My therapist looked at me and she's like, girl, you need a trip for like self-discovery to know who you are and all of that crap. And I was like, okay, sounds like a good idea. I'm gonna go to Vietnam for a month. My therapist was like, a trip to, what the fuck? What?
That.
Ugh, it's just vibrating right now. Okay. I figured Vietnam would be great because I knew someone that would be there. My parents wouldn't be too worried. And since it was the first time that I had ever actually been out of the country, then it's a good chance for me to like still kind of be safe, even though Vietnam was super safe. I go to Vietnam and let me tell you, I don't know what was better on the trip. Was the plane ride there and back or Vietnam itself? The air, the friendly skies were amazing on first class. Like, holy cow, you walk in, everyone's nicer to you. You have so much space to move around. People really don't care what you do. They give you slippers. Like, I had slippers. And then internationally too, like I got to lay all the way back. The airplane food was so good. I had Korean food on 4 different flights. Okay, so this was my first flight. I was going from Portland to Taiwan into Vietnam. And on this flight, I have just a meat tray with some lettuce. I don't know why they had lettuce, and some cucumber and a tomato, like a whole tomato. Got some bread, olive oil. And in the middle was beef bulgogi. So once you get to Vietnam, you have to go through customs and they stamp you and make sure you're in. But the weirdest thing about this airport was I landed, it's sheer pandemonium. In that airport in Ho Chi Minh, it's hot, it's humid, it's disgusting, and you're just running around and trying to figure out where you're going. Somehow I ended up making it from finding my driver to then going to the place that I was staying with my best friend's sister and brother. A couple cool things about Vietnam. One, their currency is called dong. So I had the most dong I've ever had in my lifetime. The night lights up. It's usually so hot to do things during the day. It's humid, it's muggy, and weird things would happen. Like, they build their buildings up, and it wasn't uncommon to just go to bars that were like 68 floors up. And drinks are super cheap. Like, I bought 14 double mojitos for $7, so I was fine buying the bar at that point. Entertainment is always interesting. In one of these bars, they had these nice shirtless men pelvic thrusting in your face, like an entire Justin Timberlake song. It's this one. They got their sexy on. There's a lot of crotch in this one. I don't know why I kept filming their crotch. But at the same time, there's a lot of segregation there. As in, the first level is for locals only. Like, if you stand out like I did, like a sore thumb, they move you to the top floor. And you have like the overseeing like deck space, but it's also super lonely down there because there's not that many people that you can associate with. I mean, you have other travelers, but other than that, like, you're only allowed at the top if you're a foreigner trip. So one thing that I realized from going to Vietnam was how fortunate I am. Fortunate that I have running water, fortunate that I have a roof over my head, fortunate for a lot of things that I took for granted. And in one of the tours that I took, they went through authentic Vietnam, as they say. We were motorcycling along the river and they suddenly stopped. And you see these houses floating on the river. And our tour guide at that time was telling us that some people are so poor in Vietnam that they move their house to live on the river because they don't have to pay property taxes. And with that, they don't have electricity, they don't have clean water, and their kids also can't go to school because of the fact that school and education is only made available to people and their children who pay property taxes. And since it's free to live on the river, they don't get to go to school. And What they try to do is have a family member live in an apartment in the city so that way their kids can. And it's not uncommon for kids to actually swim across the river every day just to go to school and back because they have no mode of transportation. And that's the only way that they can get education, since education is so highly sought after in Asian culture. I think the best thing about Vietnam that I got to do was stay at a homestay. This homestay was badass, as in you had to take a boat to the private island that they were on and take this path into this grand palace of a homestay where literally they don't allow you to have your shoes in there. And the entire floor is tile. It was so clean that I swear to you I could have probably licked it and never have gotten any disease in my life because it was that clean. And anyways, like when you're doing this kind of trip that is so for yourself and you're exploring yourself and all of that, and you're just kind of looking to be alone, you're a lot more thankful. And one day I woke up from the homestay, which is essentially a hostel, so there's a lot of group living in there. I woke up and it was 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, holy cow, it's freaking bright outside. So I grab my phone and I just exit because I was closest to the door. So I'm walking down this path and no one's up yet because it's 5 in the morning, and I take this off-beaten path that I'm kind of was like on the main one, and there was this little path that kind of went over to the left. I was like, I wonder what's over there. I go through these trees and all of a sudden, like, I hit an open section right off of the edge of the island. So the water is just splashing, and in between, in this little area, there's 2 trees and a hammock that is sitting there. And I was like, this is really cool. So I ended up like hopping onto the hammock, and I just remember looking and watching the sunrise and thinking, wow, this is the happiest I've ever been, because I was so alone and so thankful, and at the same time just so proud of myself that I was able to just book a random flight with not enough time to prepare and only take a backpack and actually live in that backpack for a good month. I was super proud of myself, and it was the best feeling ever to just be there in peace and quiet and just kind of just exist. All right, if you like this week's episode, make sure to like and subscribe to my channel because new episodes are released every week. So I'm just Tazz, and that's just it.